Wait a minute, y'all.
Comment, like, and share, and comment. Comment, like, and share, and
The boy done switched up on you.
comment, like, and share, and comment. Comment, like, and share, and comment.
A lying to me. And I know you lying.
Comment, like, and share,
Period.
There we go. Alrighty then. Got a hot sauce over here. You know I don't need it. Let's get one over here. Alright. Let's go.
Wait a minute, y'all. You guys look, if this is your very first time to this channel, run over there and subscribe for me. After you subscribe, make sure you hit that notification bell beside the word subscribe so that you'll be notified each and every time that we upload a video. And then welcome to this great family. Now that you're a part of it, there's some things that we do. And we do them every day because they help us grow. Those things are comment, like a sharing, go take for the team. Comment like a sharing, go take for the team. Comment like a sharing. Don't forget to comment like a share, comment like a share, comment like a share, don't forget to comment like a share, comment like a share, comment like a share, don't forget to, don't forget to comment like a share. Okay, you gotta check this out, we're gonna hit pray. We're gonna get into the goodness. Here we go. Hey man, how y'all doing today? How y'all doing today? How y'all doing today? Over here to the side. The bean is in the building, y'all. There you go, there you go, there you go. The bean is in the building, y'all. There you go, there you go, there you go. Let's see if it's natural fresh. Here's, you guys, Lil Ben has done him today with nice cold H2O. Also, if y'all got my lips hot sauce, if you like your bottle of way up top screen in blue, way up in the top of the description box in blue, hit that link and right there you can get your lips hot sauce and your lips merged. Okay, you guys, today for the food. Baby, today we have got us a charcuterie board. That's what we got. I went ahead and put it on my big plate in it anyway so I can put everything on here I wanted, but it's a charcuterie board. That's what we got. This was requested a while back by our Legion member, Ilanda. And baby, she has made sure that she kept up with me and made sure that I didn't forget it, okay? So this is what we got on here, y'all. Of course, we got our Ritz crackers. We've got some shrimp cocktail in the front. We have got some, on this side, the hard salami. Over here, we got the Genoa salami. Behind it, right here, we have got some seasoned cucumbers. Over here, we've got some Kobe cheese. Over here, we have got some, what is this cheese called? Pepper jack cheese over here. Back here, we have got some, I know the cheese is mozzarella, but the meat is what? Prosciutto. Prosciutto wrapped around mozzarella cheese. Over here, we have got our, this is sour cream with those ranch packages, the ranch dressing in it to make a dip. And over here, we've got assorted pitted olives. Gucci, y'all know about your business. You ain't in the video. Okay, y'all. So let's get to eat. Let's go. All right, and we got some grapes back at the back too. These are those little in your grocery store where you find like where you find the green grapes. Sometimes you should see something that's a little off color. They look a little red looking, and they're called cotton candy grapes. That's what these are right here. That's what they are. And I'm ready, y'all. Okay. Here is the prosciutto wrapped around the mozzarella. There it is. And it's good too. It is. And we got crackers all about. Okay, y'all, so we're gonna get back into this. Our journey through slavery. Okay? Now we done started in the beginning. We told you the Spanish and the Portuguese, that they controlled the seas. Christopher Columbus came up here and found the new world. They started making colonies, just in the third. They started sending the sugarcane to Spain. Okay? We don't talk about, they saw the need for slaves and they started the triangle trade between the Caribbean islands, New England, that's so good, and West Africa, okay? Sell the slaves, send them down here to make sugarcane, on the sugarcane plantation, make the molasses, sent to New England. New England make the rum go to Africa, pay for the slave. Triangle. We're gonna talk about all that. Then we went through and showed you how the Dutch and the British took over the seas, started making colonies. This is a cucumber in that. This ain't nothing but sour cream and that a ranch dressing that you buy in like a pack or in a bottle. And mix it together and it makes a dip. We talked about that. We talked about how in the 1660s, the need for slaves, which had originally been indentured servitude, with whites and blacks. We talked about how they needed more and more because of the tobacco when it got started in Virginia. We talked about how the first colony that was set up over here that stuck, that because of the revolts and stuff like that didn't go away, was Florida. We talked about that. Okay. We went on to talk about how the increase in need for slaves and stuff because of the tobacco, how it exploded, this, that, and the third. We got in there and we talked about the first case in the New World, what we know is the United States now, how the first case that was totally unfair from the beginning, where 3 men ran away from indentured servitude, 2 white, 1 black. The white ones got a sentence of 1 extra year to their indentured servitude, but the black man got in prison for life. That was the first known record of slavery, was somebody's freedom was taken away from them for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? There you go. Just shrimp cocktail. We talked about all that. Okay? We went on through and we talked about how one of the first recorded cases also in the United States one of the first trials in the United States had to do with somebody's freedom being taken away from them and they being put into slavery for lifetime. Also included, or was, a black man. Anthony, let me see if I can figure out what his name was. I wrote it down. It was Anthony something. Anthony Johnson. He had been, it was one of the first known cases of slavery in North America. The slave owner was a black colonist in Virginia. His name was Anthony Johnson, who had been in indentured service itself. So remember, eventually, in the beginning, indentured service, including Africans, could buy their freedom. He bought his freedom, made so much money from his work, bought his wife out of her contract. Oh, y'all. That pitted. I was a little strong in my throat. Bought his wife out of her contract, y'all. And through his work, he was given 250 acres of land, just in the third. We talked about all that. We went through and we talked about how the laws in Virginia quickly changed because of what was going on in the world. Every time the slave would figure out how to get out of slavery, how to get out of servitude, they went to making laws. That's smelling good. They went to making laws to counteract them, all the way up until the point where they basically said, they were framing up slavery. We talked about the young lady. I gave you her name as well. Let's see what her name was. Her name was Elizabeth P. Grinstead. She was the first African-American woman, or anyone from African-American descent, that filed for their freedom on the basis of her father was an Englishman, and she had been baptized into Christianity, and she wanted her freedom. They counteracted and made a law. And said from now on, your place in society was only due to the mother. So if your mother was born a slave, you would be a slave. Okay? Went on to say that even being baptized in Jesus' name into Christianity still was a path for you to become free. Okay? We talked about all of that. Okay? We talked about all this, which leads us up to where we are today. I tell you somewhere around 1705, where they made the law that if you were enslaved by a master, if the master died, that still didn't give you freedom, that you would be transferred from the master to his heirs like property. We're talking about that. Okay? Now, yeah, this is good. Thank you, Eli. This is good. So, around the same time, y'all, another thing, because at this time, remember, indentured servitude is still going on. But remember, it was a cutback in indentured servitude around this time because of the fact that the war in New England, a civil war over there, had ended. So now there's not a lot of people putting their stuff in indentured servitude, okay? Okay. So that's what we're going to start today. Now, you've been passed down from owner to heir to this property. They've cut out most ways that have been figured out up until this time for you to gain your freedom. Now, we're going to start today and showing you the framework of how things came to be basically north and south when it comes down to the United States. Because all these colonies are popping up in different places, and they each believe different things, okay? So, that's what we are starting today. Okay, there was a revolt somewhere around this time as well, where the indentured servitude people, the whites, they revolted. And it was a lot of casualties because what it was, now that everybody's expanding in Virginia, everybody's expanding, making more money, these people wanted the law. There were still Indians adjacent to their land. And they wanted the law to basically come in and help them kick them out. Kill them, do whatever they want to do, relocate them, whatever. Just get them work for me so I can expand my land. Well, the law didn't do it. Or didn't do it quick enough anyway. So therefore, there was a revolt against the landowners there because they wanted to expand their land. Okay, because of this revolt was really the exact turning point when they went from, okay, we in the South, Virginia, as Virginia, we talk about the Carolinas starting to be formed, Florida's already there. What it was, they said, well, look, we need to end this indentured servitude in a way. We don't prefer this anymore because, for one, the indentured servants, they can carry weapons legally. They're Englishmen. They can carry weapons legally, and they can, get together in large numbers and work out how they're going to attack us or how they're going to carry on these missions. Whereas Africans that come over here, they can't. They cannot carry weapons legally, and their movements are subject to what the owner of them says to do, so they can't get together in large groups to make plans to do these type things. That's how it really turned. I'm not specific because I didn't write it down, but I think this revolt came somewhere around 1698. That's where it turned, where they said, hold up, we don't go through this no more. We're going to stop this indentured servitude, and we're going to go just have a slave that we can control. So this type thing here won't happen. Man, we're trying to make money. We ain't trying to keep on fighting each other. We're trying to make money. Okay, so because of these rebellions, during this time, the city of Jamestown was burned down, burned to the ground. Okay? And that was when the indentured servitude was overcast and not preferred because it was a free man's workforce. Remember that these were free men that were indenturing themselves. Okay? All right. Now, let's step back a little bit. In 1648, in Virginia. And they were producing tobacco and corn there. Okay? Remember I told you how the slave trade ramped up. Well, in 1648, there was 300 slaves in Virginia in these tobacco and corn crops. Okay? Tobacco still hadn't took off. But it took off in 1660. Remember me telling you that? So by 1670, there was over 2,000 African slaves in Virginia. By 1700, there was 8,000. By 1750, there was over 120,000 West African slaves that were in Virginia alone. Not in the world, in Virginia alone, because of this tobacco and corn. Okay? In 1690, South Carolina, most of their slaves were bought and sold in Charleston. South Carolina, most of the English settlers that came over here and went to South Carolina, they were from Barbados. Okay? And in South Carolina, you know, in different areas, different things are grown because of the climate, because of the land, because of the water sources and stuff like that. Well, there was tobacco in Virginia. The rice fields were in the Carolinas. Now look, this was South Carolina, okay? So, South Carolina, most of their settlers came from Barbados, and they were originally sugar plantation owners in Barbados, okay? Now, when they came to do rice, because rice ain't been done here yet, only tobacco in Virginia, when they came to do rice and figured out that South Carolina was suitable for rice, the climate, the soil, okay, they brought their slaves with them. They brought African slaves with them because at that time, probably all the way throughout slavery, the slaves themselves had more knowledge of the crops than the person that owned them. Now, how this got kicked off in South Carolina was the more slaves you brought with you, or the more slaves that you bought when you got here, or the more slaves that you imported once you did get here, they gave you more land. The more slaves that you had when you came, the more you bought when you got here, and the more as you imported them, they just kept getting you land. This is their way of getting you to get more slaves to the colony. Okay? Now, unlike Virginia, the Carolina plantation owners, they had never had an indentured servitude workforce. When they started their workforce for the rice fields in South Carolina, they were always slaves. So things there in South Carolina were much harsher, much stricter than what originally, or at this time, was still in Virginia, because Virginia still had a lot of indentured servitude over there. So that's when the real harshness came in the New World, was in South Carolina. Okay? On top of, South Carolina was extremely hotter than what it was in Virginia. Okay? So the working conditions for the slaves was just a lot worse, just because of the fact that it was hotter. Okay, moving on, y'all. Okay, now, now, when they started doing this, the knowledge and the labor of the West African slaves led to an explosion of product out of Virginia, especially out of South Carolina. Okay? In 1698, South Carolina produced 5 tons of rice that were exported out of South Carolina. By 1700, it was 300, and they brought the Africans on over here now and got it together. It was 330 tons. 330 tons by 1700. That was only 2 years from the first year. They only got 5 tons. You see what I'm saying? And now, by 1730, it would reach 330 tons in 1700. By 1730, it was 5,000 tons. And by 1740, it was 200, no, hold up y'all, I'm gonna go back because I'm getting confused. In 1698, it was 5 tons of rice that was exported by South Carolina. 1700, it was 330 tons. And 1730, it was 5,000 tons per year. And by 1740, it was 25,000 tons per year. See how they ramping up, how the Africans that came over here by their workforce and by their knowledge? Now it's 25,000 tons by 1740. Now, a big factor in this happening this way by 1740 is because of the source of where they're getting the slaves at. Now remember now, the slaves is coming from Africa. They have been free at some point, okay? They're in indentured servitude, this, that, and the third. Where because of the harsh conditions of what they were growing, the rice and the temperature in the Carolinas, South Carolina, they mostly only bought African American men. You know what I mean? They didn't buy no whole lot of women. They mostly just bought men. Well, the thing of it was, they was having to pay top dollar to get these slaves shipped across the sea, baby. He over here into something and everything. But how all this here came to be about, how they start mass producing things, but because of the source of the slave that they were getting. Now keep in mind, Virginia, when they bought slaves and brought them over here for tobacco, they bought both men and women. So, by 1720, the slave labor force in Virginia is self-sustainable because they bought men and women. So now, the slave in Virginia, they're producing generations of slaves behind them, and they had them for so long. Now, it's been years and years and years. They slave trade is self-sustainable now. So now, Carolina can start to buy slaves straight out of Virginia. Straight out of Virginia. They ain't got to pay top dollar for them because they're coming from next door, this, that, and the third, da-da-da-da. So they got a lot more of them now. Okay? So, because up until this point, most of the slaves were coming out of West Africa and the Caribbean plantations. Now you can buy them from next door. Up until this point now, remember, South Carolina still, because they're mostly about men in the beginning, it's going to take them years to get to where their slave population is going to start to be self-sustainable because they got to get the women up here now. You got to get the women started getting them pregnant. It's going to take years. So until the international slave trade was abolished in 1807, South Carolina always had to buy large number of slaves because it took them a lot of years, you know, to get that to going. Okay? Now, by 1850, y'all, the amount of earth that had been moved to encase the Carolinas, Georgia, Virginia, or basically the ones closer to the water, to encase them, to make banks, to make canals, irrigation, you know, to keep the salt water from the river, the oceans, this, and the third, whatever was out there. I ain't gonna pinpoint that because I can't think right now. I'm trying to get through this. To keep the salt water out, they had to create banks. They had to create some type of irrigation. They had to create, you know, canals and stuff to get the plants in to be watered, this, and the third. It was said by 1850 the amount of earth that had been moved for Carolina and the Carolinas and the Georgias alone for the rice fields, that it was estimated to be 3 times the volume of earth of the world's largest pyramid. And all this had been done by African slaves with simple tools and back-breaking labor. Oh, Jesus, take the wheel. Can y'all see where this is going, y'all? Well, of course, we know where it's going, but I'm just saying, can y'all imagine 3 times the earth had been moved by 1850. We'll set up these plantations the way they need to be. With simple tools. We ain't talking about no industrial stuff. But let's move on. Slavery was a lot less common in the North. In the North, the further north you got to Virginia, it was a lot less common. Like north of Virginia and Maryland, and mostly it wasn't, slavery up there wasn't robust labor. It was mostly like for land, like the planting of crops, you know, housemaids, stuff like that. Maybe a little take care of animals, stuff like that kind of stuff. Because the climate was much cooler there. So therefore, they didn't have all that hard labor. And because of that, indentured servitude had worked well there because people wouldn't run away. It was cool up there. They would go there 7 years. They done. They get their land, they going about their business. That's why there was always a lot more of free blacks and stuff north than it was south. Now we're setting up how the north and the south came to be. Alright? So the economy in the north was a lot more diversified because of the weather. It wasn't hot. The land would do different things, you know. It just moved a little quicker up there for the economy than down south. Okay? So another thing that made the north and south be different was because most of the settlers that came here, most of the ones that went northern up there, because they didn't need all that, they didn't want all that heat, they didn't want all that, they didn't need all that land to grow nothing, da-da-da. Most of those settlers that went to the north, they settled up that way because they fled their countries, wherever they were coming from, Barbados, Spain, where they were coming from. They fled their countries out of freedom to explore their religion the way that they wanted to. They didn't want to be under a religious rule somewhere else and have to practice like they practice. You know what I'm saying? Like, say, for instance, we all know at one time, Catholics, Romans, whatever you understand, however it goes, that's why they fled where they were coming from. They didn't want to be suppressed religiously. Okay? Whereas, like the Quakers and stuff like that. Whereas the people who migrated to the South, they needed those weather conditions. They needed that lot of land and stuff like that. Because they came here searching fortune. They were greedy when they came. You see what I'm saying? So that's why slavery indentured servitude worked better in the North than in the South. Because in the South, you need to be free. We need to be able to tell you what to do. In the North, we give you 7 years, you can be free because we just really here, we want to practice our religion like we want to. Yes, slavery was there, but it was nothing like it was in the South. Okay? Now the Quakers were the first people who spoke against the conditions of slavery and wanted to include slaves into religion. They wanted to teach them how to read and write, and they appealed to all, including other Quakers that owned slaves, to work toward emancipating them. Okay? Now keep in mind, I said slavery did exist in the North and the South. Okay? And this is how it went. In Maryland, slavery started in 1630s. And it was written in the law in the 1660s. And they adopted the tobacco. Sort of kind of like the Virginia did. But still, at a tremendously less harsher situation than it was in Virginia. Now, originally, Georgia had an anti-slavery law. They didn't want no slaves in Georgia. However, it was legalized in Georgia in the 1750s, and Georgia started doing the rights like South Carolina. North Carolina, most of their slavery there started in a place called Wilmington, but it was only because Wilmington was really accessible in North Carolina for the slave traders at the ports, basically, closer to the water. Okay? New England, they had a few slaves, baby. Y'all, Gucci just be doing everything, honey, while I'm shooting this video. New England, which was northern, they did have a few slaves, but the only reason why they really had slaves because they were at the center of the North American slave trade just because of the fact of where they were at. Wasn't that they just really just wanted to be in slavery, but hey, you know, they making money through it. So, since they're going to make some money, we still got to have a way to fund ourselves. But what we're going to do here, we're not going to just overly have a lot of slaves to do work for us. How we going to make our money, and what we're going to do here, Massachusetts built the first slave ship in 1639, and they controlled the slave trade in New England. So, we ain't gonna just have them here and work them to death and treat them bad, but we're gonna get them here for you. That's gonna be our contribution to the slave trade. You see what I'm saying? So, also, Rhode Island was a major producer of the rum and the what? The triangle slave trade, remember? The rum, that was Rhode Island. So, we ain't gonna have slaves to make our rum. We're gonna feed our citizens and let our citizens get rich off the rum. But we ain't got to do with the slaves that come out of West Africa. By the time we get here, it's molasses. You see what I'm saying? So there was some slaves there, but not a whole lot. Okay? Now, and so Rhode Island, they were responsible for the rum, and that colony would sponsor almost 1,000 voyages to and from Africa before the international slave trade was outlawed in 1807, New England. Okay? New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, they were under Dutch rule until they were taken over by the British in 1664. Now remember, the British was a little different. They really wasn't all into slavery like the Dutch was. Even though they controlled the seas with the Dutch, they really weren't all into it like that. So, the Dutch had encouraged the slave trade, while British really didn't have a lot to do with it, but they didn't do anything to change it. But it did stop it from going any further than where it was. I ain't doing anything for you bring them and bring them in and da. But we just ain't gonna get into that. We're gonna leave what you got here like it is, and that's gonna be it. Okay? This is why the majority of the slaves were concentrated in the South. And the fact will continue to be that way until the end of the colonial period, and will lead to the struggles that would spark the Civil War. Along the way, the lives of slaves would become considerably harsher. Of course, tensions would rise as the voices of opposition would finally be heard. The abolitionist movement would demand liberty for all and incite a lot of violence, which became, you know, a long path for the slaves. So now you see how it happened? The colonists that came here, the first one that stuck with Florida, the ones that came here for their religious freedom from these countries they were in, they all went north in a colder climate. Because they didn't need thousands of acres of land to make money off of other people. Quakers were hard workers. They didn't need slaves to do all of that. They just wanted to practice religious freedom. Okay? So they migrated north. Indentured service worked well for them. They need somebody to cook, clean their house, work their lawn, stuff like that. They had the money. You work for me 7 years, I'll teach you something, and I'll give you some of this land I got. Which led to there be a lot educated and free blacks in the north. However, in the South, when they came here, they were the ones that went to making all these egregious rules and stuff like that, setting up their colonies because it was hot down there. So the only way they could make money down there was rice, cotton, sugar, tobacco, stuff like that. That's what they had to make money off of the land. So that's why things were different, and they needed slavery down there because of where they migrated to. They migrated there to get rich. So that's why they migrated there, because they needed those type of climates and conditions. To grow the rice, the sugar, the tobacco, stuff like that. They needed those type of climates. So since they came there to get rich, They weren't studying about human rights and how we treat these people. No, we're going to make laws to be able to continue to mass produce what we got going on down here to build these colonies and get rich. That's why there was a difference in how people thought. Enslaved, the northern part was more religious. It was more compassionate to not enslaving people, and emancipating people, helping people, teaching them religion, teaching them how to read and write. And because of the climate, you can make money in different ways there. So that's the reason why the North was more liberal. They was more for people against slavery. And the South didn't want to hear that because they needed this to make money in this region. Okay? So now you see the difference in how the North was who and what they were, and the South were who and what they were. That's how it came about, y'all. Okay? That's how it came about right there. Ain't that interesting? All right, y'all. We're getting on down through there. I hope you guys have enjoyed today. Ilana, I hope you enjoyed the charcuterie board. I really, really do. Y'all, it's getting interesting, ain't it? I hope you have enjoyed today. It was really, really informative as far as how the North was built and the South was built, how they were different. The class, you see what I'm saying? So, with that being said, I'm going to get up out of here. I love you guys so much. I truly do, and I hope you have enjoyed. I really, really do. So, all right, Newly Jan. Thank you guys so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you because you had to be here. You could have chosen to be anywhere else in the world, but you chose to be right here with us, and we love you for it. So I make this Newly Jan. Round and round we go, round and round we go. I love you guys so much, and I'm gonna see you guys next time. Okay? Wait a minute, y'all. You guys look. Always remember that there's always more than one way home. All you have to do is get there. So get there, people. Get there. I love you all. And I'm going to see you guys next time. And if you're not to watch me next time, you have lied to me. And I know you lied. Period. Bye-bye. I'm going to see y'all. We got one more episode to tie it all in together and get on to this civil war that changed things for a lot, at least freedom anyway. I love y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed today. That was a lot of information. I love bringing it to you, okay? I love you. See you later. Bye.